And good afternoon to you. Today, a very exciting day. Actually, it's always an exciting day. Whoop, let's just jump on camera over there. We'll turn it around. There's my co-host, Yosemite. Good afternoon there, Yosemite. Hope you're doing well. He's ready to go. Ready to go. It's a fun gun he's got there. Let's not get violent on us here. So I spoke to a couple of people today. I was like, okay, what do you think we should talk about this afternoon? Where do you think we should go with this one? And that word integrity came up. Hey, I thank you for that one. Who'd it come from? It came from the person that I co-facilitate the support group for the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation. So comes from a good spot. Definitely comes from a good spot. Appreciate that. You know, that word integrity, and it's got a couple of different meanings, or maybe it's got one meaning, but it's the things you do consistently when nobody else is looking. That's truly who you are as a person. If nobody's looking and you found money, would you keep it, or would you make an attempt to give it back, or try to find out whose it is? If a door is open, would you just go in if nobody's looking, or you would just like, hey, I'm not supposed to be there? Or would you find an easy way to do something that perhaps is not the right way to do something and just do it? Maybe integrity has a lot to do with being very fully 100% outright transparent. I found one spot over here to go take a look to see what integrity looks like. And this is from, I want to give full credit up over here. It's from betterup.com. I put that in the description over there, from betterup.com. So there's a few behaviors that they mention in here that show integrity. One of them is being dependable and following through on commitments. Well, you know what? I think there's an awful lot to say about that. Let's go back over here. There's an awful lot to say about that. Hello, David. I bet you do. So I appreciate that, my friend. Let's, yeah, you know what I'm about to tell you right now. Okay. Let's keep it general, general in nature, nothing overly specific here. But I forgot what I was going to say now. Man, you screwed me up. Being dependable and following through on commitments. Now, I could tell you some of the stuff I've done to follow through on commitments. And I'd like to tell you I've followed through on every commitment I made, but that's probably not the case. That's probably not the case. Have I come up with excuses not to do? I hope not. But sometimes you can't do it. And then the question is, well, what do you do then? It's like, oh, I just completely forgot. Well, if you mentioned to somebody that you were going to do something and then you just completely forgot, well, I guess if you really did just completely forget, you still have your integrity there. But if you're lying through your teeth, it's like, really? You know, is that really the case? I mean, if you had it on the calendar for months and then you just completely forgot, or something suddenly came up, some of those excuses, well, that might be a little dent in that integrity department. I know there's like a few things. I mean, this thing too, kind of stuck with it, trying to do it all along. And doing it all along for my 30 minutes. We've changed, that's fine. But doing it each weekday, sometimes better prepared than other times, sometimes having guests, other times not, the rest of it. But I wanted to make a commitment. Well, I actually wanted to make that commitment to me. Maybe that's truly where integrity begins. It's like, what is that commitment you make to yourself? What do you really want to be to you? To you. Forget about the rest of the world. Yeah, sometimes it'll be a nice and easy thing to forget about the rest of the world. There's so much crud going on out there. You got to wonder about the integrity factor that's all over the place. It's like, come on, really? Aren't we all supposed to be moving in the same direction, helping each other out? Be nice. Maybe one day. Maybe one day. But I do think that day begins today and should have always been today and always been there about that one really big commitment. And that commitment has to become and has to be, and most importantly, is to ourselves. What is it that really drives us? What is it that really means something to us? What is it that we will stay committed to, that we want to continue to follow through on? And what are we known as? Again, there's Joey spoke to earlier today, she's doing something with some old pictures that go back many, many years. And it's like, it's such a great thing to do. It's a project. It's a lot of project. And then it's those photos from years ago. That's a reflection of who those people are. And that's what the best representation of those people. A still photo, a still black and white photo. Well, today, take a look at that one. Take a look at today. Here you are today. You're able to get video, and some of these YouTubers go crazy here with all these video all over the place. But we photograph, we video ourselves. We do it in so many places, in so many different ways. It's no longer just a black and white photo. There's so many different ways to go find out about people, for people to find out about you, to understand who you are, or at least to see who you are, as you're reflected in that, and in much greater detail than you ever could see in a black and white photo. Although some of the photos you described to me were there, but if it's just a photo of you standing there, your clothes speak for you, the surroundings speaks for you, and in this case, whatever else is in that picture speaks for you. But now we get a chance to speak for ourselves. So I really wonder, 100 years from now, and people looking back on you, what will they say about you? And now, if you're out there looking for a job interview, you're interviewing, or you're looking to do something where you're looking to get hired, but pick up new clients, forget about 100 years from now. It's like now, truly, truly now. So people see that. And I think that's really where the commitment is, that integrity commitment comes from, is that if you're true and your integrity is in the right place, and your determination is in the right place, I think it'll come through all of those photos, whether it be still, black and white color, whether it be video that you're doing of you, that somebody else catches you, or somebody sees you, and you're just an innocent bystander in somebody else's video. But if you're doing what you should be doing, I don't think there's anything to worry about that. Like, what's the difference? You're fine. And if you don't think you're being videotaped, you're out of your mind. I mean, right? We used to complain about Easy Pass. Oh, everybody's going to know when they go over a bridge or down a toll road. Or there's cameras all over the place. You can walk around Manhattan, and if somebody really wanted to watch you, you can go camera to camera to camera. And there you are. So integrity is going to be something to hold true, on that one. So that's a big one there. So, David, you got a lot of comments here. So, yeah, okay, that's you. I'll go with that one. Love you too. Do politicians have integrity? That's a question and a half. I would say elected officials have integrity, but politicians, I don't know. If your goal in life is to get elected, and then your goal in life after you get elected is to get elected, and that's what you're focusing on, is to just get elected, what's the integrity in that? I always thought politicians or elected officials, those folks that are representing us, are supposed to, I don't know, call me crazy here, but represent us. Wow, where did I get that word from? Because it's probably somewhere in the definition of what an elected official is: a representative of the people, not someone who just gets elected. So, yeah, we'll go with that one without getting terribly specific on whatever it is. And you could take a look at all sides on that one. And it's a shame I even have to phrase it that way, as all sides. It really should be a person, whatever that person's race, creed, color, whatever it is, should be a representative of that area that they are elected from, representing those people to better that situation in those areas. Not just going for, I guess, the big dollars so you could buy more advertising time, or not just going for the most extravagant, exaggerated comment to get that soundbite. Oh, that viral soundbite that's going to continue on. It's like, no, want somebody to work for us. Want somebody to help the community move forward. Want somebody that could tell the rest of the surrounding communities what is needed in that community in order to help it. Or maybe it's a matter of that community reaching out to the neighboring communities and helping them along the way, which means we're not expecting every neighborhood to talk to every neighborhood, but we are expecting every elected official to speak to every elected official. So, David, to respond to that question, I think those politicians that don't want to talk to the other politicians that have either a D or an R, or maybe liberal or attached to their name or whatever other designation might be over there. Those that don't even want to talk to the other side, well, I think that's a lack of integrity if we're going to really go down that path. And I'll go down that path, and that includes everybody, both sides. We're not speaking one side or another on that one. Both sides. Obviously, got opinions on that one, David. Maybe one day we'll really go out and share it. I have to comb my hair one of these days. Okay, I said it. One of these days, I gotta do that. I haven't done that, and it's terrible. All right, let's go with number two: being open and honest when communicating with others. Yeah, what does that mean? It means not being full of crap. Really, not being full of crap. Now, as a speaker, I can tell you this: if you get on stage somewhere, or on Zoom, or YouTube, or wherever you get, in front of your team, in front of any kind of an audience, and you just start spitting out all these things because you've got that speech memorized, you've got those details memorized. Well, guess what? What is that? That means I could look, if I have enough time, I could give a speech on any topic. Any topic, I don't care what it is. You just got to give me enough time to memorize those speech, pull in those key words, so I can just rattle them off. Those industry jargon words and just rattle them off. And I'm good. I could do that. I believe I could do that with a straight face. I did take an acting lesson one time. That qualifies me for that. Actually, in all honesty, let's be open here. I took an acting lesson. It was a couple of them, one series of this thing, and I sucked. I absolutely sucked because I couldn't memorize the lines. I just couldn't memorize the lines. So when it came time to act out this play, and it was two brothers, and they were both, one was a writer, one was a professional writer, and the other one was not. And the other one just wrote his play and then sent it up, and it got accepted. And the other brother, I was playing the professional writer on that one, was pissed. It's like, you can't do that. You can't bust they go above and not follow protocol and stuff like that. That was the role I played. I could tell you the role. I could understand that role, but I just couldn't memorize those lines. So if I were to give a speech, though, and I had a teleprompter and I had those industry words in there, yeah, I could talk about anything. It's easy. So can you. Enough practice, you can talk about anything you want. You just have to have the confidence to stand there, look that camera in the eye, look that audience in the eye through the teleprompter, and spit it out. But what happens? What happens if somebody asks a question, right? What happens if somebody asks a question? I mean, every once in a while, you might be able to go, whoa, that's a very good question, and we'd like to get back to you later on that one. Good question. Very specific question there, my friend. Hey, you really know your stuff. I appreciate that. Love to have a private conversation with you. That can't go on for terribly long. If you can't answer a question, you're full of crud. You're just full of crud. People will see that. And if you're up there and you're giving a speech and they see that you're reading that speech, not knowing that speech, you're full of crud. So that doesn't work that way either. And that'll hold true across the board with everything. You got to know your material. You can't memorize your material. You got to know it. You just got to know it. And when you know your material and you get on stage someplace, or you be interviewed somewhere on anything, impromptu or not, or somebody sends you or tosses you an interesting question, a detailed question, something you didn't expect, but you know your material, who cares? I mean, that's good. That's a good interviewer because they're in the moment. They're asking you a follow-up question about something that you said. And maybe if that person really is a good interviewer, maybe they're going to bring out the best in you. And you're going to know, because the only way that'll happen is if you really know the material, not just fudging along and doing that whole thing. Yay, Mike, good to see you this afternoon, my friend. Definitely always a pleasure. All right, what's the third one in there? Let's go back over here. So being an open, honest when communicating with others, yeah. No, I mentioned about doing that from a speech standpoint, but a one-on-one, without a doubt. There's a whole bunch of trade shows that are out there. Those are so much fun too. They really are. You go to one of these trade shows and you start asking people about the product that they have or some little detail in there. It's like you just know who's in. I don't want to throw titles into that one, but who's there just as a for the trade show alone and doesn't really know the product and know the details of the whole thing and know the process. It's so easy to tell that. And if you're participant and you're going to these things and you want to speak to somebody about something, that's a little um, disheartening. We'll go with that word. That's a little disheartening because now you're sitting there, you're taking the time out of your day, you have a sincere, credible, real interest in whatever it is, and then that company doesn't put somebody there at that trade show that can actually really help you out or is very open and honest with you right out of the gate. Say, look, I'm here to just hand out information. Joe, Bill, Jill, Mary is right over here. Right now they're talking to somebody else about their situation. They're actually the people to speak to. That's their specialty. Hey, that's great. That's fine. That's an honest and open communication. But don't try to fake it. Don't try to answer stuff that you really don't know. You got to know that information, at a trade show. Both sides of it too. Look, I've sat there on the booth side of it, sitting there, and you have somebody come up and they ask some general inane question, the rest of that stuff. How's business going? The rest of it. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, well, this is what our service is. I'm like, I really don't necessarily care. Maybe I do, maybe I don't, but go figure out if I really do care. Tell me that you've been to the website or you have worked with people in that industry for a while, or you're doing something that's related in some respect, something like that. Don't just be full of crud. Crud. That's the secondary word of the day besides integrity. The word of the day is crud. Secondary word of the day is crud. All right, let's go back over here. What is the last one that we have here? This one's even more fun. Holding yourself accountable and owning up to your shortcomings. All right, let me see what we wrote over here before I start talking about my own shortcomings. All right, guys. David, you probably know him, and I know Mike does. And maybe it's a good thing my wife's not chiming in at this moment about shortcomings. All right. Own up to it, my friends. Own up to it. Here's the most beautiful thing when that happens. Let's break this one up to two different things. I think we got enough time here. Holding yourself accountable. It's basically the same stuff. Holding yourself accountable and owning up to your shortcomings. So let's go with holding yourself accountable. Holding yourself accountable. If you say that you are going to do something, who cares that you do it? The person that you're telling? Perhaps. I don't know, especially if it impacts them. But if you disappoint that person one time, two times, three times, not good, maybe not the end of the world, but not good. If you disappoint the whole array of people, again, not good. Really not good if they all start talking to each other. But what about you? How do you feel? How do you feel that next morning when you wake up? Did you do the right thing? That's a problem. That is definitely a problem because your accountability to you is probably and has to be the most important thing. If you say you were going to do something, then do it or have some really valid reason why it didn't get done. Look, we can't do everything. We definitely can't achieve everything that we want to do, but we can actually take more control of our actions, maybe not necessarily the goals. It was a time, this goes way back, But I was working with a group of professionals, and we were setting dollar amounts for sales targets, is what it was. And those numbers were there. So everybody was accountable to reaching whatever that number was. I'm going to do, let's use the word 250,000. I'm going to do $250,000 in sales. Oh, that is fantastic. So what if you didn't reach the 250? Did you lose your integrity? No, 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 because that's not really it. It's not the number that was important. It's the actions to get you to that number that is really important. Look, if you're selling something, there's one thing you cannot control. You cannot control the other person making a decision as to whether or not they're going to buy your item or not. It doesn't work that way. You can make compelling arguments. You could be very good as a salesperson with using those keywords to get them to think, making sure you get to the decision maker, doing all this of that stuff, doing your research is probably the most important thing in the world. Doing your research and making sure that you understand what those pain points are with the other person. But still, when it comes down to it, if that person doesn't want to buy from you, but doesn't have a need for that product right at that moment, you can't control it. When they say no, they say no. What you can control, though, is your own actions to get to that point. So perhaps the better sales goal figure would be calculated based upon how many sales calls do I need to make? And then it could be broken down to prospecting calls versus um, uh, current clients. To throw into two categories: prospective clients, current clients. How many sales calls do you need to make in order to reach 250,000? Well, it's going to be a tough one to do year one. You got to figure out how many calls you need to make, where people are receptive to the idea, and maybe it's 50% on existing clients, maybe it's 5% on prospective clients, and now you could kind of back into the whole thing about average sales and do the whole thing. But what are you really accountable for here? Are you really accountable for the number, dollars, the sales dollars? No, I don't think you're really responsible for that. It's always nice to hit a goal. But really, where the accountability comes in, that credibility, your own integrity to you comes in the fact that I know that to reach $250,000, I need to make over the course of a year 500 client contact calls and 1,000 prospect calls. Picking numbers here. I mean, obviously, I'm not basing this on anything, but 500 client calls and 1,000 prospect calls. Well, if there's 365 days in a year, minus out weekends, this, that, and the other thing, let's assume is 200, 300, I don't know what it is, like 300 real working days in a year. Do calculate the math, and then you find out that you have to call 5 clients a day, 10 prospects a day, and that's what you signed up to do. That's what you're holding yourself accountable for. That's where the integrity comes in. That's where the difference lies. It's not so much as the number, but I think it's on your own daily actions, on what you want to hold yourself accountable for. That's integrity. Because the reality is, especially if you're blessed to work from home, or if you're self-employed or solo entrepreneur, guess what? Nobody's looking over your shoulder. Nobody's holding you accountable for anything. Nobody. Only you. You can make up whatever you want to make up to tell other people, oh, I was busy, my throat hurt, I couldn't make phone calls, phone didn't work, it was a beautiful day, I went to the beach, blah, 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 blah. But that integrity has to do with the accountability when no one's looking. There's always one person looking, and that one person looking is always you. All right, the last thing in there that was mentioned is owning up to your shortcomings. Yeah. You want to know something? We all have them. All right, guys. Again, don't chime in on what my shortcomings are. I'll tell you what my shortcomings are. My shortcoming is, well, one of them is the fact that I kind of do things before actually knowing exactly what I'm supposed to do before I do it. Is that a shortcoming? We could debate that one. But sometimes I do things a little unprepared and then kind of go into this with go into it with, I will say, horse blinders on. Just like, okay, that's the goal. I'm going to do it regardless. Yeah. Right. Now I do understand, and you should understand too, that I'm not looking to make anybody else look bad in the process. That is one thing that falls into my integrity, but just go out there and do. And sometimes we do too much. Sometimes we go into something without really knowing anything. And sometimes it works. Sometimes it doesn't. But sometimes it does work. Two stories on this one was I was met with one person who's got a radio show. He was looking for a sportscaster. So this is where, this was an integrity. Oh, this one was painful, I got to tell you. But I was asked to do the sports show. He said, all right, here's what I'd like you to do. I'd like you to come on every morning, and you're going to be the sports broadcaster. You're going to talk about the scores, games, all the rest of that stuff. Can you do it? I said, yes, absolutely, I could do it. Yikes. I called that person back about 2 hours later. I was like, I can't do it. Can't do it. Wish I saw the guy's face when when I said that. But I called him back and said, I can't do it. Here's the thing. If I was doing it, if I was to read the scores to you on this program, tell you what was going on, tell you what happened with the Super Bowl, you know what? It's me. I get it right. It's me. I get it wrong. It's me. I get a question that I can't respond to. It's me. And you want to know something? I don't know sports well enough. In fact, I'm really not. I'm not well versed, and I wasn't watching the games or all the rest of that stuff. This person, though, watched all the games, could tell you all about the players, the plays. If a play was a good play or a bad play, if a play that was done by somebody was extraordinary because that player does not normally do those kinds of plays, he could talk about that. I can't. So when I called him back, I said, look, if it's just reading the scores, I could read the scores. I could do that. That's no problem. But if you're going to have a conversation, if you're going to go for that banter back and forth, I can't do it. Well, I was certainly disappointed by not being able to do it, but I woke up the next morning knowing that I made the right call by not doing that. I'm okay putting myself in a situation, maybe embarrass myself there a little bit, but not if it's going to hurt other people. Then I didn't want to hurt his role. I didn't want to be a bad reflection over there. Another story that went along with that one too is that last year, the drag races out in Riverhead, I had the opportunity to do the same thing, and it was announcing the drag races. I was like, okay, I could do this. Two cars going in a straight line. I think we got it. And I said, yep. Called him up. Said, Pete, absolutely love to do it. I said, great. Got there. Actually, before I got there, I did ask him, I said, what do I need to know? Because I really don't know much. It's no problem. We'll give you everything you need to know. All you're doing is reading the information that is there. The cars, the driver of the car, kind of car, and all the rest of it's on the sheet. And then also their the speed and reaction time. It's like, I wasn't sure. I said, we'll show you. Boom. Did it. Got comfortable doing it. Did it. So in that case, though, well, that worked out rather well. One, I actually loved doing that. I think it was great. It was in the moment, too. So it was right there. It wasn't I had to watch the races the day before and then comment on it afterwards. It was right there in the moment. That's improv, is it not? Yeah. Because things happen, you just don't know what they are, and then you just comment on those things. There's a lot of stories with those drivers, those cars, the men, women, and different kinds of age groups too that were there. Found it fascinating. I found it so fascinating, and perhaps I did well enough, or I did do well enough that I've been asked to come back there and actually announce the races again. So I'm really looking forward to that. But you want to know something? I still stay true to what I was comfortable doing, where I knew where I was capable of doing, reflecting to somebody else's position on something. And that's really where it comes down to. It really is. Where is integrity in your life? It has to come from within here. It really is what you do when nobody else is looking. Whether it's finding money, going through it, opening a door, finding an easy way to do something. all of that has to come back with you. You have to be able to wake up the next morning and feel good about how you handled that situation. When it comes to sales, business, and stuff like that, well, you know what? The only person that's going to know that you actually put the effort into it is going to be you. You could fake these different worksheets and stuff like that, just check things off. Nobody's going to double check, probably at least, unless they're really, really putting an effort into the whole thing. But you'll know. And if they come back to you and ask you questions about that, you'll know. And unless you're a really good poker player, they'll know. Because once you stand up in front of that audience, whether it's one person, a group of people, or 1,000 people, and if you're talking out through the side of your mouth and you're not speaking the truth and you're not speaking what is truly authentic to you, well, they'll know it. And that is where integrity comes in. You got to be consistent. You could screw up along the way. Just admit it. You just don't know everything. You made a mistake. It's all good. And the one thing that I have found throughout the years is that when you start to talk to people about what it is that you're having an issue with, where you need help in whatever it is that you're doing, and some of the other things that you might feel a little private, maybe not to share, but then you do, then all of a sudden they open up on their side of things also. That's where a lot of friendships come from. That's where a lot of long term friendships come from. Very happy to have a lot of friends that we can be honest with each other about some of the stuff that we're all going through. So, Jill, thanks for coming up with this topic today. I absolutely appreciate it, gentlemen. Thanks for and Aubrey, thanks for joining us here today on Tomato Talk. Yes, top of mind, advancing through obstacles, and maybe integrity is the greatest mention with the whole thing because it factors into advancing through those obstacles. We all got them, and we can all advance. Sometimes absolutely having the integrity there and sharing yourself with others will help you get through a whole lot of obstacles as we do face, and we all do face them. Speak well, my friends. Speak well, speak often, and live inspired. All right, a little tomato music here on the way out the door. There we go. Hit the brand button and tomatoes.